Welcome back, everybody, to the 2023 NFL season. It's ImportantNonsense.com. 32 teams in 32 days. It wouldn't be the fantasy preseason without us coming in to break down every single team for you, getting you prepped up for your fantasy draft happening here in just about 60 days. I can't believe I just said that sentence. It feels like the year just started. Little bit of a change up this year. Welcoming back to the show, PFF contributor, PFF superstar, important nonsense contributor, Mike Manning. Mike, how we doing? How's it going?
I mean, it's like you said, it's pretty hard to believe that it's starting to actually get to, a reasonable countdown where you can do players' numbers that are linebackers or lower, like running backs, things like that. I'm like, whew, getting the itch. It's a good itch, not the bad kind of itch.
we couldn't even get 30 seconds into the first show without a crabs joke. Love it. Love it. We're right back. It's like we never left. We never left, ladies and gentlemen. We've been sitting here on hooks for a year. No, but nothing has changed. It's beautiful. And new to 32 teams in 32 games, but not new to important nonsense. You'll remember him from the waiver show last year and the trade advice column and being a regular on our Discord. It's Mr. Mike Burland. Mike, how you been, man? I haven't talked to you in a little while.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's actually, I think I just looked it up, 50 days until kickoff. So even closer than we thought. So I'm excited. We're training camps are starting, and yeah, T-minus 50 days. So what, about 40 days till most fantasy drafts start up?
I've already lost 10 more days? Oh, God, I know these shows are long, but they're not that long. All right. Well, I'm glad that we're back, and I'm glad that we're doing this because this is always good, and it's always good for the audience. So just a couple quick hits to anybody listening to this. This show is being recorded on the 19th of July. Teams are just now starting to report for training camp, but we've got to batch record these. It's just the way it goes. Tune into the wrap-up show where we will update anything that may have changed between now and then. But for the purposes of tonight's show, probably safe in that regard. As every year, this is all based around 12-team PPR in the redraft format, aka God's format. The depth charts that we will be going through are provided by Player Profiler. Shout out to Jack Kavanaugh. Jack, hope you're well. Love your work, as always. And the projections are all being provided by Fantasy Pros, and we adjust to our liking. We are, as always, a Fantasy Pros affiliate and are grateful to be so. Tonight, folks, we're starting off with the big guns. The team everybody wants to know about, everybody's talking about, everybody cares. It's the most important one. It's the Arizona Cardinals. I couldn't even fake enthusiasm for that. I couldn't even get through that sentence. I feel my soul leaving my body just talking about the Cardinals this year. Mike Manning, let's talk about quarterback. Let's talk a little bit about quarterback. What do? Kyler Murray gets hurt. Yeah, what? The note that you added here is, will we see Murray this season, a.k.a. the elephant in the room? And then to wit, I like your sub-note here. If he returns, is he a fantasy viable option? What's your take on this, Mike? Kick us off. Kick us off with this.
Obviously, the Cardinals are looking to essentially tank next year. They have two chances at having at least a top 3 pick based on projections, wins over unders type things like that when it comes to the betting world, because they have their first round pick and they have the Texans first round pick. Two teams that are not exactly expected to be in the playoff run by the end of the season.
Spoilers.
So if they're looking at that, and Kyler, I believe it was like a week 12 that he got injured last year.
I was going to say week 14, but I'm doing that for
might have been something along those. So 12 to 14, something like that. Either way, that's pretty late in the season to tear your ACL. And I believe he had to wait a little while to even get the surgery. We've seen all the updates of being like, oh yeah, he's doing well. He's jogging. He's doing this. He's doing that. That's great. That's good. But he is a shorter running quarterback that moves to even get an open throwing lane. And what have we always said about for running backs that are coming off of an ACL injury? We've said that year one's going to be at least a slow start, if not just a bad year or a down year for them. It's going to be tough to expect much from them. Well, is that going to be much different for a running quarterback? Because he's averaged 6 rushes a game his entire career. That's pretty good for a quarterback. That's Lamar Jackson level. So if you're expecting him to do anything along those lines, he's probably not going to do that. Even when he returns, he's probably going to look, if he returns, because why would you put him at risk whenever he's got that major contract and you're not trying to win games? So all of these things are adding up to at least PUP, I would say, if not just plain IR. Maybe with a designation to return, like they have, but it seems like all things point to why would you play him this year, which leaves Colt McCoy as the expected starter. That's what all reports are, is if Murray does not start the season, then Colt McCoy is the incumbent and expected to be the starter, even though there is Jeff Driscoll and Clayton Tune and some other names in the quarterback room there.
Right. Mike Burland, tag in here. What is your expectation of Kyler Murray this season?
Yeah, I kind of echo the same things. I don't think he'll be there to begin the year. If he is, that's nice, and there's some optimism there. You know, Kyler Murray has been a top 8 quarterback whenever he's healthy, right? So he's a good quarterback, a good fantasy quarterback, but a lot of that does depend on his legs. And it's not just his legs, like Mike Manning said, not just his legs for running, but just his legs to get open to pass, right, for the passing lane. So, man, it's so tough. It's like what motivation do the Cardinals have? Does Kyler Murray have the motivation to come back? Does, with the rumors of Caleb Williams and tanking and, Drake May for next year, like, does he have motivation, and is he going to want to come back? Hopefully he doesn't come back too soon. I think PUP is kind of best case scenario. And even then, so what's PUP? 6 weeks, right? And then you gotta wait and see. You're not going to start him the first game he comes back. So even if you draft him, you're starting him week 7 or 8, at best. So it's tough. I guess if your fantasy league has like an IR spot and you want to throw him on there and throw him on the IR, that's fine. But yeah, don't really expect much from him this year. And he doesn't have a great supporting cast. He lost Hopkins.
Oh, no. We will go through that. That's not how this show works, sir. We will get there. You can't break the format. Mike, rookies. Jeez. just jeez. This is why they have them report early, typically. Real quick on Kyler Murray. So just a couple things that I noticed in pulling this together. He's being drafted, which is a fascinating thing to me. With all the quarterbacks that are available, people are still drafting Kyler Murray. I have to believe that it says Murray on the back of the jersey is the reason why that's happening. Currently, if you go by Fantasy Pros current ranking, he'd be the quarterback 24, which would make sense. He'd be the last quarterback taken effectively. He'd be somebody's backup quarterback. That's what that would look like. Talking about around the 164 pick, which in a 12-team league, you draft 192 players. So you're talking about the right near the end of your draft. I actually don't necessarily mind that, especially to your point, Mr. Burland, about if you have an IR slot and you want to occupy it with that, I don't care. That's fine. You can put somebody on it. I probably wouldn't draft anybody to do it. I hope he goes undrafted and then do it, but whatever. But his ADP is 146. That's around the 13th round or so. I don't like that. That's too much. Mm-mm. That's too much for me. There are other players that I would rather have around there. What I find interesting more so than that, Colt McCoy ranked QB 39, position 371, far and away undrafted, no ADP.
Yeah.
What? Poor K?
So I think the big thing there is, if we're looking at, if you're desperate, I understand it, because he'll be a starting quarterback is what, our expectations. But if you're looking at his games last year when he started, let's see, 13.9 points, 8.3 points.
That assumes 11 passing touchdowns, yes?
What?
That assumes 4-point passing touchdowns?
Yeah.
Okay.
And he only threw one passing touchdown the entire season anyways, in 4 starts.
Okay, that in and of itself, I don't even think I need the numbers. That in and of
11.2
itself
points.
is good enough. Like,
And,
that says stay away, bar away.
2.3 points, and I think he got hurt in that game as well.
Mm.
Even in the game he passed 40 times, he still only had 246 yards, no touchdowns, 1 interception. He's not a runner anymore. He'll try, but I mean, doesn't go very far. So I think it's more of you don't see much reason to, like, there's no reason to really draft him unless you have like a super flex league or something like that where literally all the starting quarterbacks are going to be taken at some point.
Yeah, sure.
So
Okay.
can I understand it then? Yeah. But even with the weapons that he has, which is average at best, I would say that this offense has a defensive coach coming in. That's not ideal for a quarterback. And he's just not. He's 36 years old. He's a perennial backup, and there's a reason for that.
Yes.
Yeah, if you're starting Colt McCoy, I think you're kind of waving the white flag almost.
In a
like,
one quarterback league, I agree with you.
Sure.
Something has gone
Even in
badly awry.
Superflex.
Yeah, something has gone badly awry.
Even in Superflex, unless it's like a 14, 16 team Superflex,
Sure.
If you're doing a 12 or 10 team Superflex, like even then, I don't even want to start them. I'd rather. I wish they would just go with Clayton Tune. Clayton Tune, throw the rookie in there. If you're really gonna tank, go.
Don't expect it.
I'm gonna put my tinfoil hat on for a moment. I have a theory. This is one of Neil's famous theories from years gone by. Mike Manny loves these. The Cardinals are going to sit Kyler Murray until about week 10 or 11, possibly even 12. Have him start a handful of games at the end of the year, hoping that he's fully healed, with the intent to trade him. That's my theory on the Cardinals this year. He's going to sit.
Depend on how their record and season is actually going. If they're in line for that, that's why Colt McCoy will start.
Right.
Because they don't want the rookie to have like upside.
That's why Clayton Tune doesn't matter, Mike. I know that would be fun, but here's the problem. It's fun for us, but the Cardinals don't care what's fun for us. They are trying to Cleveland Browns it here from years gone by, where they can tank, move on from Kyler Murray, trade him, get as many additional assets, and get that pick that Mike referred to at the whole start of this whole thing, so that they can have the 1 and 2 pick.
How Houston's playing.
Right.
They can control how they're playing.
But Houston will control how Houston plays, and it's going to be bad. Now I'm doing spoilers.
Yeah, still not.
Let's move on from quarterback. Let's talk about running back. Let's talk about something that's actually a bright spot, at least for me. Because love him or hate him, James Conner is still there. He's still here. He's still selling fake doors. And we'll go through it, but there is nothing else running back related on this roster. Mike, I noticed you had done something similar to what I was getting ready to talk about here, which is your Connor average 10.3 points. Excuse me, I'm all twisted around because reading is hard. You're talking about it's 10.3 PPR points per game weeks 1 through 9 with Murray. 19.8 PPR points per game without Murray. Gee, I wonder what their offense looked like when Kyler Murray goes away.
And this is with, let's see, it was obviously Colt McCoy. It was McSorley. And then was it
David Blau?
Oh, God,
David Blau. That's right.
It was David Blau.
Yeah. So that was the trio of quarterbacks.
Mike B reaching back into his mind. I'm jealous. I could have guessed 50 names before I got to there.
And the reason for that big jump is because his touches went up from 13.3 before with Murray to 21.3 without Murray. So he was the bell cow back when he was healthy to end the season there. And with how much injury plague type seasons that he's just got the stigma of, I mean, in the past 5 seasons, he's played 13 plus games.
Yeah.
Honestly, That's respectable for a starting NFL running back.
With the amount of car crashes that he's been in that time, the high impact things he's had to do, it's not bad.
If your starting running back doesn't miss 2 or 3 games in a season, that's an anomaly probably. Like on average, they're going to miss at least a game or two. So if you're looking at 3 to 4 games that Connor has missed in the past few seasons, honestly, that's not too bad. It based on his stigma of being, he's one of the players that usually you would look at his backup and handcuff him because of the fact that you expect him to miss time.
Yeah.
Interesting you bring that up. It dovetails into what I was saying because Mike B, hold that thought for 1 second because we're going to go right back to you. But the supporting cast behind James Conner, Keontae Ingram, gross. Corey Clement, washed, which is not analysis year on year as we know around here. But you know what? I'm willing to make an exception for Corey Clement. And Tyson Williams, who couldn't hack it in Baltimore. Like so many others, winds his way down to Arizona. It's just not something I'm scared of. There's no handcuff to James Conner. So it's, at least for me, that's the whole room. They don't have anybody else. I can't think of anybody I would want. And it's being drafted that way, by the way. Nobody else has an ADP besides Conner. We'll get into that in a moment. Nobody's got anything. There's no ranking. So with this, it's kind of a standalone complex. It's just James Conner. Mike Burland, I'm sorry. What were you going to say?
No, I just want to say how much I'm all in on James Conner this year, mostly because where he's going as well. I don't know if you mentioned it, but RB23, pick 54. So what are we looking at? Round 5? If I'm doing my math right. I love it.
Round 5. That's middle of 5th or 6th pick of round 5, roughly.
So I'm just looking at like the guys he's going around, like Rashad White, Javonte Williams, DeAndre Swift. Like, give me James Conner there. Like, the guy has been, pretty reliable when he's healthy. And for a running back, like you mentioned, he's been relatively healthy. He can catch the ball. If they really are doing this tank thing, why not just feed and run James Conner into the ground? You look at his snap percentage. Basically, when he came back from his injury last year, it was like in the high 90s. They literally put no one else on the field. It was just James Conner out there.
Well, they tried. Everybody else was terrible.
Yeah,
that helped. Like
Ingram averaged 2.5 yards a carry last season on like 26 carries.
That's why I'm hammering that point home. Is because they haven't done anything to fix that. So based on all these data points, what this leads me to believe is currently James Conner ranked as the 23rd RB, 54 position, as you mentioned, ADP 67. You can get a screaming deal on James Conner right now. And Mike, you nailed it with you went right into the stat I wanted, which is the touches per game without Murray, because that's going to be the bulk of his season, 19. If you're telling me I can get a volume play with all those opportunities, with his track record of success on a bad team, and he can catch passes, I'm in. I'm not waiting until 67 overall. I'll tell you right now, I'm more than happy to even reach a little bit and snag me some James Conner in the 4th round. But that's the nice thing. You don't have. I'm happy to do that, but you don't have to reach. You don't even have to reach. He'll likely be there for you. To me, he's the bright spot of this whole team.
Yeah, he's probably their best red zone touchdown getter. When they get into the red zone, we're going to get into the receivers, but they're not big red zone touchdown scorers. So I'm all in. I actually went back and looked at like just Colt McCoy over the last 2 years and 6 games that he started, and he targeted basically James Conner 30 times and 24 catches in those to running backs in those 6 games. So you're getting 5 targets, 4 catches a game, from Colt McCoy. And even if it's Murray, and we talked about like maybe he runs less, I could play more into James Conner's hands. So I'm totally in on Conner, especially at ADP.
Yeah, honestly. We're looking at a defensive head coach again. And even before the team ran the ball, top 10 in the league in red zone rush rate. So when they got into the goal, or when they got to the goal line, they were running the ball. And now that they don't have a quarterback that can run the ball or has the threat of it, they're just going to pound the running backs into the line, which there's a reason James Conner has 21 touchdowns the past 2 seasons in the red zone.
Brought up the wide receivers a moment ago. Let's talk about this in earnest. Your room looks like this. You have Hollywood Brown, a.k.a. Marquise Brown. Never been a fan personally. Rondale Moore going into his 3rd year. This is really a prove-it year for him. He's got to do something or his career is going to go in the he's going to go south very quickly. You've got rookie Michael Wilson. You've got Greg Dortch, who was on the fringes of fantasy relevance for a couple weeks last year. And then you've got former Colt Zach Pascal. I'm going to level with you guys. It's a lot. I said a lot of names. Nothing I want. I don't like any of it. Mike, we'll go to you here because it's. I know you have a note about. Well, do your Hollywood Brown note. Just go ahead and do it. Just lay it out for the peoples.
Yeah, so Brown sat there and earned 60-plus yards or a touchdown in every game that he played with Murray, which is 6 games, because then he got that foot injury. And then in the 6 games after he returning from the foot injury, when Murray had already gotten hurt later in the season, he only had 1 game, and it was just over 60 yards. No touchdowns the rest of the season. It was just the 1 game that was over 60 yards. So that's not ideal. Like the definition of low upside, that's in the dictionary right next to it. That's very low upside.
It's incredible how bad that is.
Mm-hmm.
It's barely statistically possible. I need people to understand how hard it is to be that poor. Mike Burland, Mike B, help me. Is there any? Can you give me any optimism at all? Can you give me any?
I don't know. It's like, well, we got to go back. If it's Colt McCoy, like we got to hope for what, 220 and a touchdown a game, and we got to hope it's just funneled towards Marquise Brown and Rondale Moore. I mean,
that's your ceiling is 220 and a touchdown. That is.
Can we see?
Is it 1994? Did we go back in time?
Yeah, basically.
I'd love that, actually.
Can we see Marquise Brown doing 6 catches and 60 yards on average a game, and then a touchdown? 6 touchdowns for the season. Like, I mean, maybe he could be a volume guy. Like, maybe.
I think if they try to make a volume guy, they'll get him killed.
Yeah.
I have no data point for that, but I'm just telling you that like that's my read on that. Is if you tried to make Hollywood a volume guy, he ain't playing the whole season. He's going to be on IR.
Yeah. Rondale Moore, not too excited about. I mean,
let's close. We'll get into Rondale Moore because Rondale Moore is more of an interesting conversation. Let's just close the book real quick on Hollywood Brown. Hollywood Brown, ranked 32, wide receiver 32, excuse me, 75 overall. His ADP is 82. So America is on the right track here with kind of leaving him out. But I will say, even at 82, that's the
8th round?
Yeah, that's the 8th round.
That's too rich for me.
I'm out. Yeah, I'm walking away.
I need to hit double-digit rounds to be like, sure, I'll give it a chance.
No Cardinal wide receiver inside the top 10 rounds, I think, is a good rule.
I've seen him go in rounds near like Mike Evans, and
Mike Evans is like a 6th round pick.
I've seen him go around him, players like that.
I know people hate Mike Evans this year because they got burned last year and he's falling, but
he still hit 1,000 yards every year of his career.
I know,
whatever, so
he's only
you don't
like
it
30.
because you don't like how he does it.
Right.
Because he'll have like a 40-point game and then he'll have a 2-point game.
Well, and everybody wants to anoint Chris Godwin, which I understand, but there's that.
He's going around Tyler Lockett as well. Like, give me Lockett.
Yeah, easily would rather have.
I don't like. That's the Spider-Man meme. That's the same guy. Like that's the same thing.
Had like 7+ touchdowns in the past 3 or 4 seasons.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Okay, so he was
the wide receiver 1 technically, I think, last year for the Seahawks. Like I would definitely
right because
the slander,
the stupid 40-point games. That's right because the stupid 40-point game. This is why I don't roster Tyler Lockett because I can't live my life like that with the 40 points and then the 3 and then the 40 and then the 3. I can't live my life that way. So we're all in alignment. Let someone else deal with the headache that is Hollywood Brown. Let's talk about something that might be actually interesting, at least slightly, which is Rondale Moore. I like your note here, Mike. Weeks 1 through 6 with, Brown healthy and no Hopkins. He's 16 for 22, 128 yards, no touchdowns. Week 7 through 10, which is Hollywood Brown hurt with Hopkins returning. He was 25 of 33 targets, 286 yards, 1 touchdown. I think I see what you're trying to do there, my friend. I'm no mathematician, but I think I see the picture you're trying to paint. So
I think the big thing with it is he's shown that he can be a solid fantasy option even with an alpha or being the wide receiver 2 in essence in any way. He can do that. they didn't want to in the beginning of the season for some reason. But whether it is Hollywood Brown or DeAndre Hopkins, they can feed him the ball and he can make plays with it. Because that was only, I think, about a 3-game sample size before Rondale Moore got hurt.
Right. Yes, it was. It was literally week 7 through 10, so he played 3 games, and that was it. That's all.
Yeah, so
limited, but at least it's something to look at.
Yeah, it's just showing that in his average depth of target went up from literally being behind the line of scrimmage, essentially, in his first season to at least a 5 yards downfield. So who knows how he's going to exactly be used, because last year he had moved from primarily in the slot to a bit of mix both because of the players that were available. Because even whenever he was available and Greg Dortch was available, Dortch took inside, Moore stayed outside, and that actually hurt Moore.
Yes,
because Dortch was more the target for Murray whenever he was in the slot, because Murray does like the slot.
He does.
I remember hearing that and looking at it, and I went back and looked, and so Rondale Moore played 7 games basically. In 5 games, he had majority of snaps in the slot, and he averaged like 7 catches and 75 yards a game. The other 2 games were pretty pitiful when he wasn't in the slot. So that's my only concern. Again, a very short, small sample size. Of course, only 2 games where he didn't play majority snaps in the slot. But I am a little worried, like, because he seemingly is the number 2 guy, and maybe Dortch fills in as that slot guy, that that kind of actually hurts Rondale Moore. So that's like my only concern. But you're basically paying nothing.
Okay, let's talk about that real quick since you brought it up. Rondale Moore, ranked wide receiver 57, 148 as far as actual true ranking. ADP 148. That's a perfect time to take Rondale Moore.
Yeah.
If he flames out, who cares? It's a perfect upside lottery ticket.
Those are the players that you are like willing to drop in early in the season if you have like a waiver wire pickup you want to make or something along those lines, or they just don't pan out early. That's fine. We don't know what this offense is going to look like in Arizona. It's a whole new coaching staff, and there's
he might be a target
galore.
monster for all I know. He could turn into a volume play. No one knows.
Has no idea what he's doing.
Anything's possible. Like that's why I like. But this is why I don't want to deal with Hollywood Brown, because I need to pay for that. Whereas I could get Rondale Moore. That's like the 14th round. Like, I don't have to put anything in and there's no skin in the game. He's my last positional player functionally at that point. Who cares if he flames out? It's fine. Throw him back on the waiver wire. If it works out, it works out. If it doesn't matter. That. So far, we have found 2 things to get excited about for the entire Cardinals offense. And it's James Conner at a value, which is weird. That's still weird to me. And I don't know what people are looking at. And then
they're just afraid of this offense in general.
I think they're afraid also that James Conner might get hurt, because that's dogged him his entire career. His ADP has always been weird because of ever since the cancer, like him getting hurt after the cancer, it just goes back, and it's some of it's not, a lot of that's not his fault, but he gets blamed for it. And then Rondale Moore, which is a good value, because I remember last year you were not getting Rondale Moore anywhere near like the 14th round. That wouldn't happen, and people were all excited because of the Kyler Murray offense. So, and none of the other wide receivers matter. I think we agree on that.
No.
None of it matters. One last position to go through. It's my least favorite position. It's tight end. Get your abolish the tight end shirt at importantnonsense.com. Tight end should not be its own independent position. It should be called pass catcher and folded in with wide receiver. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk, because tight end is a disaster. You have Zach Ertz and Trey McBride. So they actually have 2 tight ends. Notably, people remember Trey McBride as the rookie from last year. And then Zach Ertz has been in the league for a million years. So, Mike, I know your question was, does Zach Ertz return by week 1 or at all? I think that's a legitimate question. What's your take on that?
I don't think he's available week 1. I think he's like Murray, at least a pup. But honestly, I think he tore multiple ligaments.
Yes.
I don't think it was just an ACL. I think it was like an ACL and MCL.
No, he
or
blew his whole knee out. Like,
right. So at his age,
he's 30. He's on the wrong side of 30. Like to point out, he's almost my age.
So I don't. So we're looking at this: injured, old, on a bad offense.
At a position that I think just doesn't matter unless your name is Travis
at a
Kelce.
position that you're picking upside, not like if you're drafting a tight end that late in the draft, you're drafting the upside guy, not a guy that's going to maybe have 3 catches for 36 yards on average at best.
I would say normally you'd be hoping that he falls into the end zone. But we just went through the Colt McCoy touchdown. You just told me it's 220 and a touch is your best case scenario. That's horrible. Like, I hate my life. Like, I'm not doing this.
So I'm not going to touch Zach Ertz in any way whatsoever.
To put a fine point on this, by the way, as little as I think of tight end, boy, a lot of people must agree with me about Zach Ertz because ranked at tight end 27, theoretical rank of 211, drafted ADP 196. So functionally undrafted in a lot of leagues, and for good reason.
Not usually 27 tight ends drafted in most leagues.
No.
So I hope not.
That would be. I'd like to play in that league actually because I could win a lot of money. So if you are drafting 27 tight ends in your league, I'd like an invite if you've got a slot. Let's talk about something that might actually. What were you going to say?
Real quick on Zach Ertz, I was surprised last year until he got hurt. He was the tight end 3. I did not remember that he averaged.
He was solid.
11 and a half.
He was
points.
solid.
Yeah.
That's why people see the name Zach Ertz and they remember that.
He was solid because Rondale wasn't getting much. And then it was only Hollywood who was being fed the targets. So it was based, and the run game was being minimally used because that's Kingsbury. That's what he does. So if we're looking at we're a wide open offense where Zach Ertz actually plays in the slot a lot. Yeah, that makes sense that he would get some play for them. But
let's talk about the final player, Trey McBride, coming into his second year. Usually, if you're a tight end, if you're going to break out, it probably happens in the second year, maybe the third. Being ranked tight end 22, 183 overall, ADP of 215. So the public has the right idea. Who cares? I agree with that sentiment. Mike, just a couple quick notes. I know you had said in his first, the reason I'm just going to do this is because he was a rookie. So it's like, I get why this would happen. In his first 10 weeks, he had 4 targets. That's what that boils down to. That makes sense to me that he's a rookie. They don't put rookie tight end out there. Typically,
and Kingsbury doesn't use 2 at any point ever.
That also is true. Week 11 through 18, he was the number 1 in receiving snaps, top 3 in targets, receptions, yards. That's for the Cardinals, not
that's for the team. Yeah,
that's for the Cardinals, not for like fantasy. But his target rate goes from 4% to 15%. I will give you that much. That is not nothing.
Yeah,
it's literal nothing.
He's used to being the entire offense because it was at Colorado State. Like, it was literally 97% of the passing yards went through Trey McBride.
Don't bring that up. I had to watch so many of those games. I don't want to talk about that. Like,
so is there a world where you see Trey McBride healthily fed targets in offense that's going to be down often?
Sure.
Yeah. So if
they're Colt McCoy targets, so they only count for about half a target. But they're targets, like
the late type flyer on him as your second tight end, I am all there for it.
Yeah. I mean,
Mike B, we talk about this a lot. Not all targets are created equal, as we know. Targets from Patrick Mahomes are worth a lot more than targets from Colt McCoy. Like, it's just the sad reality of life. Gentlemen, we've managed to actually do this almost on time. I suggest we make hay while we can and not spend any more time talking about the Arizona Cardinals, a team that is going to be dreadful, will probably be last in their division, certainly, if not last in the entire NFL. I think the takeaways from this really are we don't want any part of anything really that isn't James Conner or Rondale Moore. And if you want to take a very late flyer on Trey McBride as your second tight end, fine. Like, that's basically the whole summary of this. And don't fall into the narrative of Hollywood Brown and don't get suckered into like any of this nonsense. You want to stick to the things that we know what you're getting, and you'll be a lot happier. And no one listen to this show because it's going to pump James Conner's ADP and it's going to screw up all my drafts. So don't do that. Just click and then immediately shut the show off. Don't listen to any of this. Like, anyway, gentlemen, Mike Manning, final thoughts, parting thoughts as we get out of here.
This is a bad offense, and it's not usually good for fantasy to take part or take many parts of a bad offense. So
Mike Manning, concise as always. Mike Burland, where are you at here as we wrap up for today?
Yeah, not much else to say. James Conner, for me, it's James Conner and no one else. So maybe I'll take a 15th round pick on Rondale Moore, but it's all about James Conner. And I agree. I hope we don't mess up the ADP because of this show.
By now, everyone's turned it off. It's fine. Nobody got that far. Tomorrow in the listening audience's world, we will be treating you to the Atlanta Falcons. And when I say treating you to, inflicting upon you the Atlanta Falcons is probably a better way to put that out. But we will see you tomorrow. And until then, keep up the nonsense.
I'm Tim Kitzrow from NBA Jam and NFL Blitz, and you can find all the guys at ImportantNonsense.com. Kaboom!